He did everything right. At least he thought he did. He texted her back quickly. He told her she was beautiful every single day. He rearranged his entire schedule to be available whenever she needed him. He stopped going to the gym with his friends. He stopped working on the project he used to be passionate about. He made her the center of his entire universe. And she left. Not for someone who treated her badly. Not for someone richer or more attractive. She left for a man who, on paper, offered her less. A man who didn't text back immediately. A man who sometimes chose his own priorities over hers. A man who was, by every conventional measure, less devoted. And he sat there staring at his phone, devastated, whispering the same question millions of men have whispered before him. What did I do wrong? Today we are answering that question, fully, honestly, and in a way that might sting, because we are dissecting the 7 psychological mistakes that silently kill a woman's attraction, mistakes that most men commit every single day while genuinely believing they are doing the right thing. Mistake number 1, over-availability. This is the most counterintuitive trap in male psychology. You believe that being constantly available communicates love, dedication, and reliability, and on a logical level you are correct. But attraction does not operate on logic. Attraction operates on tension. Dr. Kroll, Helen Fisher, a biological anthropologist at Rutgers University, studied the neuroscience of romantic love for over 3 decades. Her research revealed that dopamine, the neurotransmitter most responsible for desire and craving, is activated not by satisfaction but by unpredictability. The brain releases dopamine when it cannot predict the next reward. When the pattern becomes completely predictable, dopamine drops. And when dopamine drops, desire drops with it. So when you are always available, always responsive, always exactly where she expects you to be, you are not building security. You are eliminating the neurochemical foundation of wanting itself. This does not mean you should ignore her or play disappearing games. Those tactics create anxiety, not attraction. What it means is that you should have a life rich enough and full enough that your availability is genuine, not manufactured. You are sometimes unavailable not because you are playing a game, but because you are legitimately engaged in something meaningful that exists outside of her. Mistake number 2, emotional reactivity. Picture this scene. She says something sharp. Maybe she criticizes something you did. Maybe she compares you to someone else. Maybe she pulls away emotionally for a day without explanation. And in that moment, your chest tightens. Your jaw clenches. You either explode with defensiveness or collapse into anxious reassurance seeking. You demand to know what's wrong. You over-explain yourself. You spiral. And in that single moment, something in her perception of you shifts, not because she wanted to hurt you, but because your reaction revealed something she was subconsciously testing for all along. Research in attachment theory by Dr. Amir Levine shows that emotional reactivity signals anxious attachment. And while anxious attachment can create intense short-term bonding, it systematically erodes long-term attraction. Why? Because a woman's nervous system is constantly scanning for a partner who can regulate himself. A man who becomes destabilized by her emotions communicates that he needs her to manage his internal state. And the moment she becomes responsible for your emotional equilibrium, she transitions from lover to caretaker. And caretakers do not experience desire for the people they take care of. Mistake number 3, seeking validation through her approval. This one hides behind 1,000 masks. It looks like constantly asking if she's happy. It looks like changing your opinion the moment she disagrees. It looks like apologizing for things that don't require an apology. It looks like laughing at jokes you don't find funny. It looks like molding yourself into whatever shape you think she wants. And underneath every single one of those behaviors is a single unspoken message that her subconscious receives loud and clear. I don't trust that who I am is enough. Psychologist Dr. Robert Glover documented this pattern extensively in clinical research on what he calls the nice guy syndrome. Men who suppress their authentic needs, opinions, and desires in exchange for approval are not perceived as generous or kind. They are perceived as inauthentic. And inauthenticity triggers a deep instinctive withdrawal in women because the subconscious mind interprets it as deception. She may not be able to articulate it. She may not even be consciously aware of it. But something in her gut tells her that the man in front of her is performing rather than existing. And you cannot desire a performance, you can only desire a person. Mistake number 4, abandoning your identity and purpose. Before you met her, you had something. Maybe it was a career you were building, maybe it was a physical discipline, maybe it was a creative pursuit or a circle of friendships that challenged you and made you grow. Whatever it was, it gave you a center of gravity. It gave you a reason to wake up in the morning that had nothing to do with anyone else. And then you fell in love. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, you began to let those things go. Not all at once. A missed workout here, a canceled plan there, a project you kept saying you'd get back to but never did, until one day you looked in the mirror and realized that the man she originally fell for no longer existed. Esther Perel describes this phenomenon with brutal clarity. She says that we are most attracted to our partner when we see them in their element, when they are engaged in something they are passionate about, when they are radiating competence and purpose, when they are, for a brief moment, not focused on us at all. The paradox is devastating. The more you sacrifice your identity for the relationship, the less she is attracted to you within the relationship. You gave up everything to keep her, and that is precisely why you are losing her. Mistake number 5. Becoming completely predictable. Predictability and reliability are not the same thing. Reliability means she can count on you to keep your word, to show up when it matters, to be emotionally consistent. That builds trust. Predictability means she can script your entire week, your responses, your reactions, your conversations before they even happen. That kills fascination. A study from the University of Virginia found that emotional engagement and mental occupation with a partner were highest when there was an element of pleasant uncertainty in the dynamic, not chaos, not instability, but a degree of novelty that kept the brain engaged. When you become entirely predictable, her brain stops allocating cognitive resources to thinking about you. You become background noise, comfortable, familiar, and utterly devoid of the spark that originally drew her in. This is why long-term couples who introduce novelty, new experiences, new conversations, new dimensions of themselves into the relationship consistently report higher satisfaction and desire than couples who settle into rigid routines. Mistake number 6. Weaponizing vulnerability. There is a critical difference between genuine vulnerability and strategic vulnerability. Genuine vulnerability is sharing something real about yourself because you trust her enough to hold it. Strategic vulnerability is performing emotional openness because you believe it will make her feel closer to you or obligated to reciprocate. Women detect the difference almost instantly. Research by Dr. Brené Brown distinguishes between vulnerability as courage and vulnerability as manipulation. When a man shares his pain, his fear, his past with the quiet confidence of someone who has processed it and owns it, it deepens connection. When a man dumps his unprocessed emotional weight on a woman and expects her to fix it, reassure him, or carry it for him, it creates a burden disguised as intimacy. One is an invitation, the other is a trap. The woman's subconscious does not evaluate what you shared, it evaluates how you shared it. Did you offer your vulnerability from a place of strength or from a place of need? That distinction determines whether she feels drawn closer or quietly begins pulling away. Mistake number 7. Confusing niceness with emotional strength. This is perhaps the most dangerous mistake on the entire list because our culture actively encourages it. We tell men to be nice, be agreeable, don't rock the boat, don't challenge her, don't express displeasure, don't hold boundaries that might create conflict. And so men become soft, not gentle. There is a vast difference. Gentle is strength under control. Soft is the absence of strength entirely. A gentle man can say no with warmth. A soft man cannot say no at all. Dr. Jordan Peterson has spoken extensively about the psychological distinction between a harmless man and a dangerous man who chooses to be peaceful. A harmless man is not perceived as kind. He is perceived as weak, because kindness without the capacity for strength is not a choice. It is a limitation. And women, at a deep evolutionary level, do not feel safe with limited men. They feel safe with capable men who choose gentleness deliberately. She does not want a man who cannot fight. She wants a man who can fight but chooses not to. She does not want a man who has no edge. She wants a man whose edge is sheathed, visible but controlled, present but restrained. That restraint, that visible power held in check by conscious choice, is one of the most psychologically attractive qualities a man can possess. It communicates that his kindness is real because it costs him something. It is not the default setting of a man with no other options. It is the deliberate selection of a man who could choose otherwise. So let's bring it all together. 7 mistakes. Over-availability that kills dopamine. Emotional reactivity that signals anxious attachment. Validation seeking that broadcasts inauthenticity. Abandoning your identity and purpose. Becoming entirely predictable, weaponizing vulnerability instead of offering it genuinely, and confusing niceness with real emotional strength. Every single one of these mistakes comes from the same place: Fear. Fear of losing her. Fear of not being enough. Fear that if you show your real self with all its edges and imperfections and boundaries, she will walk away. But here's what the research tells us over and over again. She does not walk away from the real you. She walks away from the diluted version of you that fear created. She walks away from the man who was so terrified of losing her that he lost himself first. The path back is not about learning new tricks. It is about unlearning the old lies. It is about rebuilding your center of gravity, finding your purpose again, setting boundaries that honor who you are, becoming comfortable with the possibility that being authentically yourself might create friction, and understanding that friction is not the enemy of attraction. Friction is attraction. If you made it this far, you are not the kind of man who runs from hard truths, and that already puts you ahead of most. Subscribe if you want to keep building this understanding. Share this with someone who needs to hear it before it is too late. And drop a comment telling me which of these 7 mistakes you recognized in yourself. Not the one you want to admit, the one you know is true. I will see you in the next one.